It says we're live in 45 seconds, so. Oh, we're live now?
Live now.
Hey, everybody, it's me. Hey, everybody, it's me, Tom Daldin, from the smash hit Emmy Award-winning PBS TV show Under the Radar. And if you haven't seen our program, well, join the rest of my family. But if you haven't seen the show, we explore the state of Michigan. We're showing the entire world why Michigan is the greatest place in the world to live, work, play, own a business, raise a family. And we've been on for 11 seasons. We're on wherever you get PBS. And we go on adventures. And the last adventure we just went on was actually a shocking experience for me personally, because we used an electric vehicle, which I'd never done before. We drive all over the state, like I said, on these adventures. And this is a new experience for us. And we had so much fun. And to tell us about the experience, not only will I be doing that, but I have two special guests with me tonight. I'm going to read your titles to make sure I get them right. I have Brian Rich. He's the Senior Vice President and Chief Consumer Officer at Consumers Energy, and Kathryn Snorrason, and she's the Managing Director at the Michigan Office of Future Mobility and Electrification. Kathryn, that title is shocking.
I know, long title. I know.
Yeah, we had so much fun doing the show, and actually the show is premiering on PBS tonight, so check your local stations. And Brian, Consumers Energy was nice enough to give us this car. And tell me a little bit about your involvement in the program.
First of all, we really think this is a major turning point for the state. And Consumers Energy really wants to just be a catalyst to make sure that customers who have questions about what it means to own or drive an electric vehicle, that we can be there to answer them and also remove any friction from the process. So things we do, such as giving customers rebates when they want to install chargers in their home, and I'm sure we'll get to that, Tom, so that they can charge at home most of the time, certain pricing plans so that they can charge at certain times a day and get discounts, and then also just a lot of information, where to go, where to get information, what cars are available, how much energy you can save, those types of things. So we really just try to be a catalyst to make sure that customers can adopt this new technology faster.
Well, I can't tell you how much fun the experience was for the whole crew, because I had never driven an electric vehicle before and didn't know what to expect as far as how it drove or where you can charge it or anything. But the learning curve is 3, 2, 1, and you've got it. It's just a different mindset. It's just a different way of thinking about it. But it's so, like I said, we had the vehicle for 2 or 3 days, and by the end of it, it was like the new normal. There was nothing to it. So Kathryn,
sometimes I think, Tom, the first time I picked up one of these and I said, well, this is just better than what I've been doing before for the last 100 years. It felt like the same thing when I got in my electric vehicle.
Yeah, you have to embrace change. And I do. I mean, I love change because it makes life more interesting and fun. But Kathryn, explain a little bit about MEDC, or the state's involvement in pushing this technology forward, because it actually, we all know it's the future, right?
Right. Yep, exactly. So like Tom said, I'm with the state of Michigan's Office of Future Mobility and Electrification. So we are across collaboration across different state agencies and working with the governor's office. So Governor Whitmer joined Michigan in the U.S. Climate Alliance, a coalition of governors working to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in line with the global climate goals of the Paris Agreement. And she also followed this up by setting a target for Michigan to achieve carbon neutrality by 2050. So all that we're talking about here today is working toward those goals. And Michigan has also actually done a lot in this space and will continue to accelerate our activity here. We are developing a DC fast charging network for worry-free electric vehicle travel throughout Michigan by 2030. So reducing that range anxiety. And we've already rolled out hundreds of chargers and multiple federally designed alternative fuel corridors. And we're providing this comprehensive approach and pairing it with programming statewide. We'll talk about some of those programs today. But one of them is a $30 million fleet transition program to switch fleets from diesel to electric by 2024. Everything from trucks to buses to boats. I know we're here to talk about cars today. And then it was exciting to see if we look at a local community. I was in Port Huron just a few weeks ago, and their Blue Water Area Transit unveiled 2 new electric buses on Wednesday. So again, going beyond cars into public transit, but that is making that's the state's first public transit agency to include them in its fleet. So really exciting work here in the state of Michigan, and not just with our office, but across state agencies.
Yeah, it really is the future. And it's something that we all need to embrace. And I wasn't sure how I felt about the technology or the experience you never do until you try something.
Yeah.
And like I said, as soon as we got behind the wheel, it's like I say in the show, it's just like driving a car, because it is a car. It's just a different platform, or it's a different energy source. We were shocked at how much fun it was, and how it's weird. It was different, but it was the same at the same time. But yeah, like I said, you folks at Consumers Energy were so good to give us a car. Actually, it was a Chevy Bolt.
Yes.
And we went to Lansing to pick it up and met a wonderful guy named Jeff Myram, who actually did the walk around with me and showed me what to expect. And this guy's like 6'5", and a Chevy Bolt's not a big car. And he got in it with me, and he was comfortable. The car was awesome. So we actually have a little clip of what it was like the day we picked up the car. So why don't we roll that right now?
The power tends to surprise people. The inside space tends to surprise people. And then as you get going down the highway, the quiet. So you're like, you know what? I really hear the road. I can, and if you're out like in a park or something, it's so quiet. You can hear the birds. You can put your windows down. It's really pretty nice.
Well, how is Consumers Energy part of this, of moving this whole technology forward?
Yeah, great question. So we know that electric vehicle drivers are really concerned about, the cost of fueling or charging with an electric vehicle. And so how we help is we help in a couple ways. One, we have time of use rates, because when this thing is charging is when you're sleeping. So perfect. Second thing we can do is we can do a rebate on what's called a level 2 charger in your garage. So it's very much like what you have here in the background, but this one is waterproof. This one's built for the outdoors. There's some simpler versions that can connect to the Wi-Fi in your house that are a bit cheaper than this. And we have a $500 rebate to help you with that cost.
Now, Brian, Jeff mentioned, charging stations at home. Is that something that's really that complicated to do, to actually have? Because, the thought of charging your car while you're sleeping is perfect.
It is. And in fact, 90% of our charging, when we look across all of our electricity is from electric vehicles, 90% of our charging happens overnight, which is great for the customer because you drive the car all day, it charges while you sleep, you wake up in the morning. It's great for the customer because rates are cheaper at night because there's less demand of energy. And it's great for us because we don't have to build more power plants because it's not contributing to the peak of our usage, since usage is lower overnight. So we're able to satisfy that without having to build new power generation, which is great for the environment, and it also keeps rates down. So it really is a win-win.
Is the technology getting better as far as battery life and range? Because we had a little range anxiety when we were out with the car, but we found as long as you think ahead and you know where your next charging station is, it's a no-brainer. There's nothing to it. And
That's right.
The more stations that come online, the even easier that'll get.
That's exactly right, Tom. You got it. It's really, we think about it in two parts. One is the actual technology of the batteries. The cars have longer lifespan. The batteries have longer life. The range, the chargers are getting better. So that's kind of in your home to make sure that you can charge faster. And then to your point, out on the roads, there's increasingly more and more what we call fast chargers that are across the network. By 2024, there will be 200 installed by Consumers Energy across the state, but there's already 36 today. and then what we call level 2 chargers, which you would find at your local Meijer or in a lot of the towns that you visited on your trip. So it's really about the efficiency of the battery and being able to charge faster at home. And then also when you are out and about, as you said, Tom, knowing where those charging are, and they are out there today. They're everywhere today.
And I was going to say, Tom, too, as far as the number of chargers, because that's probably what a lot of people are curious about, Michigan currently offers 480 publicly accessible charging stations featuring nearly 1,400 charging outlets, in addition to 146 private charging stations throughout the state. So Michigan just, continues to build up its infrastructure to continue to promote EV adoption, and that puts the state within the top 25% of states for electric vehicle registrations. Great fact, but still a lot of work to do in that area.
Yeah, I mean, there were three of us in the car. It was for the first time for all three of us, and we're not the sharpest tools in the shed. And we still managed to figure out, get a map. Actually, there's an app that you can get, and we found all the charging stations we needed, and it didn't interrupt. And we had a tight schedule to hit, and it didn't interrupt our schedule at all.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, it was easy peasy for us, and if, like I always say, if I can do it, anybody can do it. But what are some of the things that you guys are doing, Kathryn, to keep people or to get people excited about this technology or to get engaged in it?
Yeah, I think some of the biggest key factors is, access to charging stations, like you said, knowing where those stations are located and making sure people feel comfortable when they're buying the car. So it's not just after you own the car, knowing where they are, but feeling comfortable making that transition to an electric vehicle. Also, the education around the benefits of the transition to the electric vehicle. Tom, I'm sure you saw when you were driving that it's quieter, right? There's lower maintenance, ultimately lower costs over time, better for the environment. So the education around the benefits and where the charging stations are. And then ultimately, making sure there are affordable electric vehicle options that meet the need of the customer. And there are already a lot of options out there today. And it's great to see even more announcements coming out from our automakers across the state.
It actually felt really good on a personal level, knowing that we weren't spewing carbon into the atmosphere.
Yeah, I bet. Yep.
Yeah, and the car had tons of pickup. It was smooth, quiet. I actually enjoyed it better than it didn't have. It's like with an internal combustion engine, you've got thousands of explosions happening in front of you constantly. That's, just shaking the car and making noise and spewing gas. And it's nice to just zip down the road and just feel good about what you're doing for the planet. So on a personal level, I loved it.
Absolutely. And I wanted to say one more thing. You were asking about programs. And so if there are any businesses on the line today, there's a state department called the Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy, EGLE, and they have a fantastic program for you to help reduce that cost of installing a charger at your location. It's called the Charge Up Michigan program. And we have somebody on the line who can pop a link in here for you. So you're eligible as long as you're a public or private organization located across the state of Michigan. And again, this is to expand our charging infrastructure. And the funding would cover 1/3 of the total cost to install an EV charger. And they're accepting rolling applications. So it's first come, first serve until funding is exhausted. So there's definitely programs out there, especially if you're a business listening. Click on that link.
Yeah. Now, the program we're premiering tonight, I'm really excited about because, as you know, we travel all over the state of Michigan and we feature small businesses and entrepreneurs, people making a difference in the community. So in this one, we go to Gazelle Sports in Kalamazoo, a guy he's been in business for 36 years. He helps the community engage with one another by getting people to get out and move and be healthy. We went to a wonderful place called Walnut and Park. It's a coffee shop in Kalamazoo where they actually it's run by the Kalamazoo Probation Enhancement Program. And they help people who are on probation or who have just gotten out of jail, sort of find their feet, get a job, and help them become members of the community again. And then we also went to the wonderful town. I don't know if you guys have ever been to Marshall, but it's one of the most iconic Americana towns in Michigan. Yep. Every time I go there, I say the same thing. I wish I lived here. But we've got a small clip of when we visited Marshall. So why don't we roll that right now?
Well, with both our batteries and brains still holding a charge, me and Steve the EV headed back east and checked in on an awesome town we haven't been around in a while. That's right, it was time for an official UTR check back to see what's new for you to see and do.
Now, if you've been to Marshall before in south central lower Michigan, you know that it's one of the prettiest, most historic, and most as funnest towns around.
You'll find great restaurants, shops, fun stops, green spaces, and even a historic tour or two for you to do. It's the kind of city where in only a few minutes you'll find yourself saying, you know, I could totally live here. But what's changed and what's new since we last cranked up our cameras here? Well, while Steve the EV spent some time replenishing his batteries at one of Michigan's many convenient charging stations, Amy Crisp from Choose Marshall spent some time with me.
You know, I forgot to mention at the outset of this thing that you're probably wondering why I'm calling the car Steve. Well, on the show, we always name, when we went charter fishing, we named the fish Steve. When we went on an RV adventure, we named the RV Steve. We tend to name everything Steve. So this was Steve the EV. So
Nice.
in case anybody's confused.
EV is right in the name. That's great.
We also noticed that, and tell me if this is true, that more and more of Michigan's smaller towns and communities have these charging stations now. I mean, we pulled into, what was it? I think it was in Boyne City, which is a small little, lakeside town. And we thought, oh my gosh, and they had a full setup of charging stations there. Is that becoming common?
It is. And Tom, first of all, let me commend you on being at 10 and 2 on the wheel in that video. I was very impressed. Very impressed. Not only were you driving, we were driving safe. No, we're seeing these kind of 3 levels of chargers. There's clearly the charging that happens at home. Again, 90% of the charging. There's these fast chargers that are in interstates that allow you to get really far. And I should mention, not just within Michigan, but we're part of consortiums of other electric utilities that really allows you to get nationwide. And then there's this class of charger that's, you might find at the shopping center of a Meijer or a Kroger, or in towns like where you were at in Marshall. And we're finding increasingly it's an incentive to get people to come and charge up while you're doing grocery shopping. I mean, you can get about 40 miles in an hour, 30, 40 miles in an hour. So you might go in and do some shopping. Or if you're in a beautiful town like Marshall, as you said, it's while you're driving, it drives in traffic, it attracts EV drivers. You can go get a meal, charge up. There's really this whole strategy about it's attracting people to go visit cities. And then also it's very, very enticing that if you're having a meal or you're stopped anyway, you're charging up. It's great.
Yeah, actually, the fast chargers are awesome. When we use a couple of those, and you plug in, and oh my gosh, you're charged up lickety split. Are there incentives, Kathryn, for these smaller communities to get involved or to get? Because we even went to, we stayed overnight at Boyne, and they had charging stations right there at the hotel.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And that's where, again, I know we have somebody on the line sharing a link to that program for Charge Up Michigan. So if you are a business anywhere in Michigan, like we said, we want to expand that charging infrastructure across the state. Look at Eagle's Charge Up Michigan program, where they can cover 1/3 of the total cost of EV charging equipment for you. And again, that expands our network across the state for chargers, and encourages people to travel.
Yeah. Like I said before, it's so much easier and the new experience is fun. I mean, it's just different than your typical experience. Plus, you don't get gasoline on your hands. I hate that. Or you get gas on your shoe and it's with you for the next week. It's just, we just loved the experience. Now, Brian, you guys have both driven electric cars. Did you have the same experience when the first time you did it, like Brian?
Oh, are you talking to Kathryn or me? Sorry.
No, you, Brian. I was just wondering if you had the same experience.
Yeah, I did. I mean, it was the same thing. It was that feeling. And when I first, as I said, picked up a mobile phone, and I was like, this is now the way I'm going to use phones forever. I've never went back to a plugged-in phone. I felt the same way. And you're right, Tom. There was like this feeling of a different platform. The pickup is obviously faster. I mean, we don't talk a lot about electric vehicles, but their performance is so fast. And it's really nice being charged up when I leave in the morning, because not only do you avoid the smell of gas that you mentioned, but think about those dreary winter days where you're sitting at the gas station pumping your gas, as opposed to now when I wake up in the morning, my vehicle is charged in the warmth of my garage. It's a totally different experience. So yeah, it took about 3, 4, 5 minutes, and then all of a sudden you're off and running. And as you said, it's a car.
Yep.
I didn't think about that. It's like, when you get up in the morning and when you charge in your garage, you get up every day with a full tank.
Full tank.
Yeah, I mean, and it's just, yeah, and that's easy. And are the cost savings that significant? Because it seems like it would be.
They are. Before I even get into the electricity versus gas, I always want to remind people, no oil changes, no maintenance. So the cars are, when you actually run it out, there's just a lot of maintenance costs that are reduced, and obviously there's tax benefits in the federal government, state government that are worth looking into. But then when you actually get into the price of the commodity, I've heard it thrown around that it's about $1 a gallon when you charge on electricity. And as I mentioned, we have rates that are off peak. So if you charge overnight, which most people do, they're the cheapest rates we offer for electricity. So it is significantly lower cost saving. And then obviously the maintenance costs on the vehicle are much cheaper.
Yeah. We got a question from somebody right now, which is actually a good one. Are all these charging stations universal? I mean, are they all the same format, the same plug?
My experience has been that with the exception of the Tesla network, they are all the same. And then Tesla has their own proprietary network. But for owners that have a Tesla, it comes with an adapter that allows you to go back to the universal network. I've also heard that Tesla, I think Elon Musk tweeted earlier this week or last week, that he was thinking about opening up the Tesla network to be open. But by and large, there's really two platforms right now. There's the Tesla and the non-Tesla.
Yeah. Kathryn, are you encouraged about the future as far as the states involved?
Yeah, I absolutely am. And it's from a number of different perspectives. I mean, you can look at the infrastructure, how many chargers there are, looking at how many vehicle models are coming out, and people communicating around what those benefits are, right? You kind of hear from your family and friends, and then you want to buy one too. And then the programs to support, like Brian was saying, whether it's state or federal rebates. And then our office is also looking at the data and conducting feasibility studies to see what additional rebates and incentives could customers receive for one, buying the car, and two, installing a home charging network. So there'll be a lot of announcements coming out over the next few months and year as our office works toward more of those goals and just making it easier for consumers to buy and use and experience an electric vehicle here in Michigan. Because we want to alleviate that range anxiety and any concerns people have up front. And, we've been able to do that with a lot of our state partners.
Yeah, if you know me, I'm a very anxious person. I have a lot of anxiety. And the fact that I got in that EV and it was just so easy, and it was fun and clean and quiet.
Yep.
So on the show, we also go to a wonderful bakery in Boyne City, and then we make our way to Sheboygan. So why don't we watch this clip right now? It's another clip from the show.
Well, after replenishing our batteries with a good night's sleep at Boyne Mountain Lodge, we powered up Steve at yet another convenient charging station, took a quick and quiet drive around beautiful Boyne City, then headed about an hour northeast to a town on the shores of Lake Huron near the tip of Michigan's mitten that was as much fun to say as it is to visit. I'm of course talking about Sheboygan, a city with a charming and vibrant downtown, plenty of marina to boat around, of course a convenient place to charge Steve, and a spirit that's moving this town in the right and in a very bright direction.
I miss Steve already. Yeah, Brian, it's like I don't know how many times I can say that these cars are so necessary and they're so easy. Are you finding more and more people talking about this?
Yeah, prior to this year, Tom, if you asked me what are our customers saying, I probably would have said it's more in that early adopter phase. But it feels like since January of this year, there's been this massive inflection point. General Motors made this amazing, ambitious announcement to be off internal combustion engines. Our friends at Ford have announced, the F-150 Lightning, and the Mustang is on the road. We've got real affordable cars that have value to Michiganders. President Biden has said he's going to be electrifying the federal fleet. That's 650,000 vehicles. We're at the point now where this feels like this is happening. And as a result, I think we've moved beyond early adopter. We're seeing, based on Secretary of State data, 20% year-over-year growth of demand in electric vehicles. And, we're just scratching the surface there because we own the Consumers Energy owns the second largest fleet in Michigan. All the light passenger vehicles will be electrified by 2030. And then Kathryn was really alluding to something very interesting, which is really businesses that are starting to look at electrifying their fleet. This is the year where this is happening. And it's no longer just that early adapter, but people are seeing this happen. And as you said, in towns across Michigan, the chargers are there already.
Yeah, Kathryn, it's true. I mean, it seems like we've been talking about EVs for years, but now it does. You're right, Brian. It feels like it's happening all of a sudden very quickly. Because I think we've reached that point of enlightenment where we realize we have to do this now. And when we were out driving, we actually saw other Chevy Bolts on the road. And it's funny how you never see a car until you're in one,
right,
or until you buy one. You don't see that car.
And you notice.
But we were actually seeing people and waving and like high-fiving and, hey, here's the green thumbs up. So, yeah, I mean, I'm extremely encouraged for the future.
And I was going to say, along with fleets, I mean, I think pretty soon people are going to be in public transit buses and they're not even going to realize that they're electric, right? So I mentioned that 2 were rolled out in Port Huron, but that's just the very beginning of the rollout of electric buses, both public and school buses across the state of Michigan. So I think pretty soon people aren't even going to realize when they're in one.
And think about all that exhaust coming from diesel buses that school children who are going to school every day are breathing in, or in our cities. It's just, Kathryn's right. The buses are going to be a really interesting turning point.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, they won't realize it and they won't care. And actually, they'll be happier that they're making a difference in doing this. So thanks to both you guys for being with me tonight. I really appreciate it. If you get a chance, this episode airs tonight on PBS. So check your local listings. So it's tonight. In Detroit, I know it's at 8:30. So it's our brand new Steve the EV episode. And if it wasn't for the MEDC and Consumers Energy, we couldn't have done this. So
thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
I really appreciate it. Oh, and also, if you want more information, I got it written down right here. For more about EVs and electrification in Michigan, go to michiganbusiness.org/mobility. And for more about EV programs from Consumers Energy, go to consumersenergy.com. How'd I do?
Perfect. Nailed it.
Well done.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Watch the show tonight.
Will do.
Will do.